is day 14 of our day trip, or our Europe trip, and we got Piotr. You have seen her before, and we have a new guest named Piotr.
Hello, I'm Piotr or Piotr.
Piotr.
Yeah, from Poland.
Poland.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you guys. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we all three are in the same hostel, Sophie's hostel, and we have had a very long day because we did a walking tour of Prague. And then we did a castle tour, and a bus took us to the top, but we still had to walk down. And then we had the beer tour,
which was a great tour.
But it wasn't. It's not like oh, you just go to party. We literally learned about how they made the beer, because this place is actually considered the top nation that consumes beer per person, and they have good beer and they do it differently. And so I thought I'd learn about what this nation is known for. And so we started with the walking tour. And so what happened is we had this tour guide named Camille. He came here and he picked us up, and then we went and walked and picked up other from people from other hostels, and we met in this town square, I guess, which was part of the new town. So there's the new town, the old town, the Jewish quarter, the castle district, and then the lesser quarter. And so we went through all those places. What do you think was the first thing that you learned? The first thing that you could remember learning?
The first thing we seen was that whole big square in the middle of the city, when there was a whole revolution going on. It was the place, Velvet Revolution, yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes, yes,
it's the place when that person burned himself as a sign, like he did not agree to all the things that are going on in the country at the moment. It was pretty rough. Like it was all like Nazi based, like Nazi and Hitler based. It was like, you know, like a European history is all about Nazi now. So yeah, so it was pretty intense. And when he talked about it, was, oh my god, he was so like,
he was into it.
Yeah, he was so into it. Like, oh my god, sorry. Sorry, we are here.
so Camille, our tour guide, is really into it, and it's because he's a historian, philosopher. He's written for newspapers. He just knows his stuff, and he really likes it. He's even working on his master's, and he's about to move to LA. Anyways, so the Velvet Revolution we were talking about is when the Nazis were coming in, and they're bringing their tanks and they're ruining the city. And the Czechs are known for their humor, not so much.
It wasn't Nazis. It was a communist party coming in. Yeah, the Velvet Revolution was just before the communists fall off, I think, was it? No, it's very blurry right now.
Yeah, there's
so much information. But we cannot bear it anymore.
But what we can tell you is that there was this very long square in the new part of the city, and at the very end of it is this museum. And there's this man who was tired of the invasion, and he was also tired of how the Czechs were not doing anything about it. And so what he did is he took 2 buckets of gasoline up to in front of the square, and he poured them both on himself, and he lit himself on fire. He didn't die though. It took him 3 days to die in the hospital, and during those 3 times they interviewed him, and they're like, what is this for? Why did you do it? And he said, 1, in rebellion to this invasion, but 2, in rebellion to how the Czechs are acting. Like, they should be standing up for this.
They did nothing about it. Yeah,
exactly.
So he was about just to make some steps.
To tell them to be more courageous, to come together and say something against the powers.
Yes. So that's why he did it, but he was not the last one. Many other people came and did that.
5 or 6?
5 or 6 of them in rebellion. But he was the first, and he wanted to be the spark, the torch that lit the whole rebellion.
And he actually was,
and he was, and that was cool to hear about, but very sad. But why they call it the Velvet Revolution and there's the Velvet Protest is because eventually the people did come together, and they did come into the square and everything and rebel, but nobody died, and there was barely any damage to the buildings, and so that's why they call it Velvet Revolution.
And it was about the communists. They just not the Nazis. It was the communists. It was about the communists. They just
And that was. Am I wrong saying that was 30 years ago that they were?
It was actually. It was 89.
Yeah.
89. Yeah.
Guys, do you realize how recent this stuff is? Like
1989. It was pretty much the same in Poland. It also, 1989 for Poland as well,
Oh my gosh.
When we beat the communists.
See,
so it was
so
pretty,
recent, guys. You should definitely look into this. It's huge. So, anyway, so that was the first thing we learned. We got to see so many other things. It's hard to recap it all.
Then we learned about the Jewish quarter, about the Nazis, all the stuff they did. Like seriously, pretty fucked up stuff.
Yes. What was the most What was the most surprising thing that you learned from the Jewish quarter?
From the Jewish quarter, like they put them there just because the place was like very likely to be flooded.
Yeah, there's a river splitting the city exactly in half, west and east. And so that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, Jewish quarter was the place when the flood was most common, so they put all the Jews there, just like, you know, oh, maybe they get flooded, maybe they get killed, it's gonna be good for us nowadays,
Yes.
because they're gonna be killed with our hands clean, so that was pretty intense,
And the biggest thing I saw that in that quarter, they were not allowed to leave. It was an open air prison, but when people died,
like
where were they?
Yes,
a ghetto. And so what they did with the people who died is they just buried them on top of each other, and there's layers and layers and layers.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at it now, they preserved it just for history. All the what is it called? The gravestones are just like knocked. The tombstones are just like
knocked on the side.
They're sideways. There's no designated area.
Yeah, they just put like they wanted to do it.
Yeah. So that was really hard to see, and it was very convicting. I don't know. It's just that happened so recent, you know. Anyway, so then we got to see this place where Mozart kind of. Am I right? Was it Mozart?
Yeah,
Mozart.
Famous in Prague.
Yes, he got famous in Prague. He got kicked out of Vienna because he was so poor, and his he was so poor, but he got kicked out because he made the ruler fall asleep. It was boring to them. So then he came to Prague, and it was a hit, and everybody loved him, and so that's where he got his fame.
In Prague, and he got the. Yeah, it's a pretty nice story, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was fun.
And there was the place where there was a statue with those hollow inside. And our tour guide told us that all the British people just get their heads stuck in it because they put it in and they couldn't put it out.
Yeah, because when
so
you
it's like
go down,
for the
the
British
head
people just
gets
stuck their heads in. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That was kind of funny.
And there was like whole fire department like dedicated to put them out of it. So it's amazing, amazing stuff.
That was very
there's
funny.
not much fire in Prague, but you know we have to put those people out of those those statues. Yeah,
yes. That was very funny.
That's the stupid tourists. Yeah,
yes.
Awesome.
Yes. So to fast forward, then we ended up going on the castle tour, and the bus took us all the way up to the top of the castle. We got to kind of walk through, learn the history, and it's very old, but also it took a long time to build it, and so there's so many different styles. Like if you could think of in school, they teach you the Renaissance style, the early Baroque, the late Baroque, and just like so. And so
all
it's
the
very,
styles in it,
it's very
everything.
just a very. What's it called? Just a mix of styles. But that's what Prague is like. They even have a memorial for 9/11 in USA history. They put a fireman's hat from New York, from the volunteer firefighters that were in 9/11, and so the volunteers in Prague came together and they've got money to help.
They have also Lennon Wall as well,
and the extra money they made for the wall. And then they have the John Lennon Wall.
And then the Rolling Stones,
the Rolling Stones came and they literally. They had this huge concert because people in the Czech Republic love rock and roll. They're kind of a rebellious nation. They just they have this humor. We'll tell you about their is it their president or their chancellor?
The president.
It's the president later. But anyways, they just love rock and roll. And their old president, super like hippie kind of guy, didn't even own his own suit, and he invited the Rolling Stones to come, and then they were like, hey, this place looks like crap. Like at night, you can't even see it.
Yeah, the castle. Yeah, you can't see there's no lighting around the castle, so you can't see it at night. So what they did when they went back, they actually on the airport, they called someone from the
light show.
Yeah, from the light show, and said,
just
take the old lights and put them around the castle, and they did, and that was the gift from the Rolling Stones to the Czech Republic.
Yeah, and then they're still there.
There's like a history of the country.
It's so cool.
Yes, it was awesome.
But the funny thing about their president today is that he considers himself the Czech version of Trump, and
the newest president.
Yes, the newest president, and nobody. Well, I'm sure some people, but not a lot of educated people like him because he's always drunk. If you look up videos, he's actually on the news like that. And so what they do, the Czech Republic has people full of humor. And so what they did is in his palace area, they took down the flag at night, and they put up this big
panties.
red like boxers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so then the flag was these red boxers. It was like ha ha ha. But then they got in trouble, whatever, and then they got let go. But then what happened later is that the president, during a press conference, he burned them on fire. So he was like retaliating with humor. And so then it just goes back and forth. This is the president of today. And it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Even today we saw someone with a Czech flag on the top, and then on the bottom was those red boxers. Like.
And the reason why they have it is today specifically is exactly 50 years ago.
Yeah.
There's an anniversary today, and the president hasn't even said anything about it. And
so they were pretty angry. So they like put the panties on again. Yeah. Red boxers. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It seems like the president doesn't care. Or something.
It's like my kind of country. Like, I like it. Yeah.
I really think Prague is one of my favorite cities we visit, and Czech is probably my favorite country.
It's like a great city.
Yes, outside the U.S. Anyway, and then tonight we ended with just getting to hang out with like the group really dwindled, and just a few of us went out to learn about the beer and how they make it. And really, it's the top nation that consumes beer. We learned about how it's made.
And it's so cheap in here. You know what? The beer here, it's treated as something essential.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than water. Like.
It's cheaper than water. And it's because in the categories, what they tax for, it's within the category of essential food stuff. So they literally tax the people so that they can bring the beer as an essential item. So I just am blown away. So I got to try 2 different beers, and it was like really good. And we got to meet really cool people. For instance, Piotr from Poland. So, Paige, do you have anything else to add?
I'm tired and I'm ready to take a shower.
Oh yeah, yes, we need a shower.
So
I'm sweaty.
Tired,
too much.
Sticky. I don't know if
too
you
much.
can tell.
Yeah.
So yeah, tomorrow we leave, and me and Paige are gonna go to Munich, and that'll be day 15 tomorrow. So I love you guys, and I miss you. I actually just saw a bunch of you at practice, and I hope you enjoy these videos. Sorry that this one is so long. Say bye to Peter.